The Gate War. My name is Darius Langston. I'm a 42-year-old civil attorney practicing in a firm I partly own just outside of Fairmont Hills, a supposedly quiet, tree-lined suburb nestled about 30 minutes from downtown. You know, the type white picket fences, an HOA that thinks it's a miniature monarchy, and neighbors who smile too tightly through Botox and barely disguise contempt. I've litigated corporate fraud, contested wills worth millions, and once defended a wrongly accused janitor in a nationally covered embezzlement case. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the absolute circus that unfolded in my own backyard, starring none other than the woman I would come to know as Karen Supreme. It all began like the opening scene of a bad sitcom. I had recently purchased my homey Amatis two-story with a kidney-shaped pool out back and a yard just large enough for weekend barbecues, but not so large that I'd regret buying a riding mower. The fence separating my yard from the one behind it had clearly seen better decades. Half collapsed in some spots, missing planks in others, but still legally sufficient to define the property line. I had the documents, the surveys, even a plat map filed with the county. Then came her. Her real name was Cynthia Hollingsworth, but she introduced herself to me as Cindy within minutes of my moving truck arriving. I should have known something was off when she brought over a Tupperware of oatmeal raisin cookies and said, without breaking eye contact, "These are organic. I don't do preservatives or boundaries." At the time, I laughed. Foolish, innocent laughter. For the first few weeks, her interactions were what I would later call subtly unhinged. Complaining about the aura of my azaleas, suggesting I mow diagonally for better energy flow, and once leaving a note in my mailbox about the suspicious vibration frequencies of my lawn tools. I chalked it up to suburban eccentricity. I'm a live and let live guy. Until the gate. It was a Tuesday morning in early spring. I was home late from a deposition prep and had planned to work remotely. Koffie brewed, laptop powered, patio doors open. And then, the unmistakable sound of drilling. Not the polite kind. The aggressive, contractual kind. I walked outside and froze. There it was. An ornate, wrought iron gate straight out of a Dracula movie. Black, twisted bars with gold tips, complete with a swirling crest that looked like it belonged to a medieval torture chamber. It was being welded into place by two guys who looked like they moonlighted as nightclub bouncers. But the location, it wasn't just next to the old wooden fence. It was on my side, by nearly 3 feet. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. I wondered if I had somehow walked into a fever dream. But no, it was real. I walked across the yard, calm but firm, legal alarm bells already ringing in my head. Cindy, I called, spotting her in her backyard wearing a yoga wrap and sipping kombucha like she was queen of the HOA. "Can I ask what's going on here?" She beamed. "Darius, you're just in time. Isn't it fabulous? I figured it'd be easier for me to come and go when I need to swim." "I'm sorry, swim. In your pool, darling. Yours is so much cleaner than the community one. And you're barely ever home, right?" I thought, why not put in a gate and save us both the awkwardness of me climbing over the fence again? Again? I took a deep breath, feeling my pulse quicken. "Cynthia," I said carefully, "that's not how this works. That gate is on my land. You had no permission. This is trespassing. It needs to come down immediately." She stared at me like I'd just suggested kicking puppies. "Oh, come on. Don't be so uptight. It's just a gate." That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was entitlement weaponized. I called Michael Kelly, an old friend from law school who'd ended up as a detective with the Fairmont Hills Police Department. "Mike," I said, "I need you to come out here. It's about my neighbor. She's constructing something on my land." He sighed. "Darius, don't tell me this is over fence. Man, you're a lawyer. This is different. She's building a gate onto my pool. It's insane. Just come see." To his credit, Mike showed up an hour later. And when he saw the construction, he whistled. "Okay, this is a first." Cindy was unfazed. "Officer Kelly," she chirped, "don't you think it's a bit extreme to involve law enforcement over a little gate?" Mike looked at her, then back at me. "She do this often?" "She's turned my backyard into her personal spa," I muttered. Without permission. While Mike was documenting the scene, I made my next call to Sarah Benning, the most precise land surveyor I'd ever worked with. By that afternoon, she had her equipment set up. Cindy tried to block her view. Sarah didn't blink. She measured in silence while Cynthia paced and barked about sovereign homeowner rights. The results? The gate was 2.75 feet onto my property. I had proof. I had a police report. I had a witness. But I also knew this wouldn't end with a polite removal. So I escalated. Over the next week, I hired a landscaping team. Not just to clean up the yard, but to send a message. I had the weeds pulled, new turf installed, flower beds lined with volcanic rock, and an 8-foot privacy fence constructed along the full boundary. And just for effect, I installed a sign, "Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted." Cynthia lost it. She screamed from her porch. She left notes in my mailbox threatening legal action. She even recorded herself sobbing by the gate and uploaded it to the HOA Facebook group, claiming I was destroying community trust. What she didn't know was I'd already filed a cease and desist through the county. 3 days later, I was served. She had hired a downtown law firm. The claim? Emotional distress, harassment, loss of view, interference with natural light. The sum she requested? $75,000. I laughed so hard I dropped the letter in my koi pond. That's when I knew we were going to court. And I was going to win. My partner, Marissa Tran, and I built our case like it was federal court. We had photos, the survey, the police report, email, affidavits from her former neighbors, even a handwritten note from Cynthia where she described the pool as community adjacent. We countersued for trespass, property damage, harassment, and punitive damages. Court took 8 months. In the trial, Cynthia cried theatrically, claimed her dog needed access to the yard for emotional stabilization, claimed the fence gave her migraines, claimed I was racially targeting her, which would have been funny if it weren't so vile, given that I was the only black homeowner on the block. But the judge, a no-nonsense Latino woman named Judge Esmeralda Reyes, she saw right through the nonsense. After 5 days of trial, the verdict came down. Trespassing, guilty. Property damage, guilty. Harassment, substantiated. Emotional distress on my part, valid. Punitive damages, approved. She owed me over $112,000. She appealed. She lost again. Turns out, she couldn't pay the damages. Her law firm dropped her. She had to declare bankruptcy. The house, foreclosed. The gate, removable court order. The HOA held an emergency vote and unanimously barred her from any community position for life. One neighbor threw a ding-dong the Karen's Gone block party. And me? I used part of the payout to install a new security system, a 10-foot smart fence with facial recognition, and threw the largest pool party Fairmont Hills had ever seen. DJ catered food, floats shaped like gavels. It made the news. The best part? I had the pool engraved with a new name, Langston's Lawful Lagoon. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Never build on another man's land. And never mess with a black lawyer's peace, especially when that peace comes with a pool.